This is F.D. Recovery, where we interview addicts and alcoholics.
Our aim is that through this podcast, we might help you on your journey of recovery.
Thank you for listening. Hello, this is Frank with F.D. Recovery. Thank you guys for tuning in this week. All right, let's see. This is the weekly intention. We go week to week with the topic or spiritual principle, and we work it in our recovery. So this week, we're going to work on self-care. Surprisingly, I haven't did it. I checked my list, and I'm like, okay, well, that's a shocker to me because a lot of this recovery is about self-care. So before we dive into that, we'll talk a little bit about last week, which was, give me 1 second, because obviously we did some damage with the drugs, right? It is positivity. We'll see how positivity panned out in our experience of being here on Earth, right? So, positivity. How did it work in my week? That's a tough one, right? Sometime I was on vacation all week, so that was a positive, right? Just experiencing life on life's term. Nice and on a nice vacation. Went and saw family. Actually, I caught a little bit of cold, it feels like, but it's on the ass end and on the up and up. So positivity, how did it work? Well, the positive is my oldest daughter is down here visiting, and she's still here. She'll be here for the rest of the week. I still got to work this week, but I'll get to see her here and there. I got a busy schedule. What other positives? I got to spend a lot of time with my daughter, my youngest, right, which is awesome. That's always fun to do because usually I'm in the hustle bustle of trying to make ends meet and trying to run a store, and all the calamity that comes with that, all the chaos, right? But when I talked in my meetings talking about cultivating a positive mindset, it is an interesting task because sometimes we can get lost in the negativity, right? It's very easy. We talked about, that negative bias being a little easier to go to, right? We talked about how easy it is, especially coming from a negative background, negative upbringing, whether it be weird family dynamics, kind of teaches us to lean on threat analysis or, how we're going to get hurt. And, it's just an interesting path because it's a harder path to try to learn something new. It's like learning a language, right? And, you start firing off a lot of, it's basically the art of neuroplasticity, which we'll probably dive into one of these weeks. But, learning to carve new pathways, because every time you do something and you practice things, you fire off new neural networks. And it's just an interesting concept of trying to rewire the brain and get some of this positivity in line with your habits and your habitual kind of repeats. It kind of feels fake in the beginning, is what I mentioned on the last podcast, and getting that practice piece into it and not letting that fakeness or phoniness or that uncomfortable, unfamiliar feeling deter you from actually just trying to do new things and try new positive mindsets and try different meditations and things that will kind of open up the door. Because once you open up the door to positivity, you're also opening up to new experiences, new paths, saying yes to the things you would say no to usually, because a lot of us like to isolate. Maybe saying yes to a cup of coffee with a friend, or maybe a new friend somebody just met, and then you open up a door to a deep relationship, whether it be romantic or whether it be just a lifelong friend, which we all need, right? We need to bounce ideas off people. So it's about creating these new, because you never know what a little act of positivity in your life is, what it's going to look like, right? Saying yes to yourself instead of that negative no. I'm not saying be a yes man, because there's definitely a balance to it, but saying yes to the times that you're trying to isolate and maybe start being aware of that, that's a very positive thing. And just starting new trends, right? Starting new stuff, that's a very positive pathway, is just challenging yourself, challenging your beliefs. What do I believe, right? Let go of the stigmas and start a journey anew, right? And without going too far in the weeds with the whole positivity trip, because we all kind of know what negative and positive is, right? And that does change. That does change. The things I thought were cool before, and like learning about life and like self-development, and going like, oh wow, this is not something I cherish anymore and I need to let go of. And you start just like rewiring things, and you start going, oh, I don't care about this anymore, right? Or maybe I should stop caring about this because it's hurting me. Just uncovering stuff about yourself that just can really, set you on a better path. It's not about dissing the old you or dissing old people. It's just like, what is working for you? Is this what you want in your life? Is this who you want to be? Sometimes if you're waking up in your reality and you're going, this is where I'm at. Am I happy with the way I'm behaving? Am I happy with the way I'm connecting with people? Am I being positive? Am I being a good example for other people? Am I being a positive influence? Like, these are all attached to that positive mindset. These are all questions you need to ask yourself, because it's all good and great, but trying to fake the funk and fake the positivity. But positivity is much more than just a fake thought or trying to will your way to a positive mindset. No, it's a microcosms of choices and retrained rituals that you have to kind of introduce into your life. The waking up, the grateful list, waking up and doing your bed, the grateful list, the prayer, the meditation, taking time for yourself, exercise, eating right. All these things, they lead towards a positive future, and it cultivates a positive mindset. You're not just going to be like, oh, I'm going to do all the same old shit, do the same old drama with the same old chicks, the same old blah, 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 and I'm just going to minus the drugs, right? Because you're going to be doing dope fiend moves without the dope. Like, I've done that plenty, right? So understanding that it's just much more than just your typical, oh, I'm going to say 5 gratefuls and think positive stuff and everything's going to change. That's a part of it, yes, but you actually have to embody some of this stuff, and add on new choices, the gym, the meetings, the step work, the therapy, the classes. If you got DUI classes, take them seriously. If you got domestic violence classes, take them seriously. If you got any kind of classes, go in there and take it serious. See what you can actually gain, right? See what you can add to, right? What if you say some of your life experience and it can help somebody else. Whatever your path is, make sure you're living intentional is what I'm trying to get at. And I believe that it's a microcosm of different choices and different additives that create a positive cultivation of the mind, right? So let's move on from positive, and we'll change to self-care. Let's see what almighty Google. Oh, Google. All right, self-care. Self-care is the practice of taking deliberate action to preserve or improve your physical, mental, or emotional well-being. It is not selfish, but rather an essential foundation for managing stress, preventing burnout, and maintaining a healthy, balanced lifestyle. All right, the main types of self-care. Let's see what it has to say. Self-care encompasses several dimensions of your life. First one, it says physical. getting enough sleep, eating nutritious meals, exercising, and getting up with medical check or keeping up with medical checkups, right? That's one thing that's huge is I didn't realize how much cuz doing drugs was just all physical for me. I had to put something in my body. I had to change my mind. It changed the chemistry. It changed what I felt. Like because I couldn't cultivate it on my own. I couldn't do that dopamine hit on my own, right? Maybe little ways with chicks and phones or whatever, but not nothing that really actually was a significant change. So that's what that addiction was all for me. Like I knew it was the go-to. Was like I didn't have any stable things in my life that can kind of get me to where I needed to go, so I had to induce myself with a bunch of drugs just to kind of feel that sense of relief, in a sense, or that sense of being alive. Like I felt like it was turned off my whole life, and I needed like to put my finger in the light socket with the drugs. And um so it's just getting physical, like get understanding that that's a key part to it. And then the next one, it says mental, right? And I'm not mental, right? So mental, keeping your mind sharp with hobbies, puzzle, and or mindfulness, as well as taking screens breaks and reading, right? Take a break. I could use that, taking a break off my screen. I'm always on my phone, right? Whether it be for the job, whether I'm at home. My wife always yells at me about being on the phone, right? So just getting to, just taking a breather off all the potentially obsessive things we do, right? And trying to tap into the more purities in life, like the hobbies. The mindfulness is a big one for me, right? Taking that second to tap in with the breath, tap in with my whole aura, my soul, my breath, and my heartbeat, tapping in with that and checking in on yourself, going, hey man, how you doing? Right? Check in with yourself. So important, right? And reading's good too, right? You want to immerse yourself in a good book, tap into another world, and whether it be fantasy. I like to read a little bit more self-help. Well, I like to listen to audiobooks, so maybe I'll take the time and challenge myself and sit down and actually read a book, because I do read books, but it's always through audio. um, and the next one it's talking about is emotional. All right, we're in our feels, guys. Buckle up. Emotional, expressing your feelings, taking time to do things you enjoy, and setting boundaries. Wow, well, the whole boundaries piece, we've done one on that, huh? The boundary piece is important to protecting your emotional well-being, right? Just understanding that you need to have a clear and concise conversations around the things you do allow and you don't allow, and make sure that they are not too rigid, because you could be closing yourself off to ample opportunities for self-growth. That whole isolation piece, because a lot of us can isolate because we're afraid of our emotions. So it can actually do the opposite, reverse damage, and kind of block you. That's what isolation does for me. It kind of hides me from my emotions and things I would potentially tap into that I'm either trying to evade or escape, right? So it's very important that I do set boundaries, but not allow myself to become a prisoner in those boundaries. So expressing your feelings, that's so important, right? Even to yourself, man. Sometimes I found myself just bartering with myself, or arguing with myself, or getting not getting real enough with myself, where I'm trying to fabricate a reality through rationale, right? And justification is the core of what I do, and the tools I use to kind of deceive myself, or throw myself off from accountability, right? That's the biggest thing, is not, and then shifting gears to taking time to enjoy do things you enjoy, right? If you enjoy riding a bike, riding a motorcycle, if you enjoy fishing, there's some beautiful things that you can tap you into into that emotional piece of it all. Like for me, I like to exercise. It really taps me in emotional. I feel my greatest emotions when I'm in deep thought, hitting a set or on a nice jog or a walk, and I'm just like, man, I really tap into my emotional intelligence then, right? And just learning how to live life, right? And then it goes on to talk about the social aspect of it. Spending quality time with loved ones, building healthy relationships, or volunteering, right? We're talking about self-care here. So what we're saying is that connection in self-care is very important, even though it starts with the self. The big part of it is connecting with others too, right? There's great how do you say, there's great healing in spending quality time with somebody you love, right? And also meeting new people, building healthy relationships with those new people, or building healthy relationship with people you already know, right? Getting in tune and touch with that, right? That's important. And volunteering, guys, the act of service is great for self-care. Like, you think you're doing it for other people, and sometimes it's your ego. Like, your ego can trip you out. Like, your ego will be like, put you in a situation. Especially for me, early recovery, I was like putting myself in a position so I could look cool, and really my ego kind of helped me out in that sense. Like, I had to learn some stuff and understand, like, I can't just do it for ego, but it did help me put my foot in the door. And next thing you know, I learned something spiritual. So, I did learn a thing or two going in it, egocentric, but I left going, "Oh, man, I'm glad I came." And whatever gets us in the door is very important, right? But it's also a must that we make some changes along the way. I started off with it a lot of ego, and then left with it a lot less ego, and that's important, because you're not just going to eliminate all these bad things in our life. We can just we can just lessen the blow of it, lessen the consequences of it, and just try to live with it. Some of this stuff is not about eliminating it. It's about getting to a place where it's manageable, right? So, and it's moving on to, last but not least, what it says is spiritual, right? And I can fuck with that right off the gate, but let's see what it has to say about spiritual. Reflecting on your core values. Wow, your core values. What do you say? Oh, things like spiritual principle, right? Integrity, humility, and things like that. Those are important, guys. So we reflect on our core values. Things like, do we steal? Is it important that we not cheat on our spouse? Is it important that we not lie? These are all things that are very important, right? And if you're not reflecting on your core values and seeing if those match, because you can say, "Oh yeah, I don't like liars," and then you can be lying your ass off. Like, okay, what you're saying is you don't like anybody lying to you, but it's okay. Rules for me, not, rules for you, but not for thee, or whatever the hell it is. Rules for me, but not for thee, or vice versa. So, rules for thee and not for me. There we go. That's my dyslexia kicking in right there. So, spending time in nature, that is very crucial. I was taking a jog. I took a 4-mile jog, and I did it really slow. I had some foot issues. I did it really slow, but the whole time I had some either beautiful music in my head, in my headphones, or I just took them out, put them in my pocket, and just kind of soaked in the vibe on the way, right? Because I'm going at a pretty relaxed pace, 13, 14 minutes, and just cruising, right? And just, man, it was just so badass getting to that reconnection, because there's something beautiful about a run and getting, that runner's high on top of it, right? Because I'm a good addict and I know how to get high without actually getting high. So, and that's true peace, right? We get to these places where we're taking care of ourselves and realize self-care is all about, exercise. I will go back to that physical piece, right? I do it for the release it gives me. And unfortunately, I'm a drug addict, right? So I'm going to find a way to get it. And today I do positive things that produce a very similar outcome. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and try to force a reality that isn't it true. Like, I'm a true drug addict. I'm going to try to, I'm going to try to find my fix. And today I find my fix. Maybe that's a little harsh way to explain it. You know what I mean? Maybe a little bit regressive in the thought process. But hey, like, I'm going to try to find my fix, and whatever that is, and something healthy today. I'm going to wake up and I'm gonna catch the sun when I can catch it. I'm gonna get that run in. I'm gonna get my reps in, and I'm gonna feel good because for so long I chased the wrong things. For so long I chased the wrong high. But today I'm chasing the right high. I'm chasing connection with other people. I'm chasing the physicality of a good workout, a good run, and just vibing with nature and just getting into that. Getting in the mix of something higher than yourself is so important, guys. And last but not least is connecting with a sense of purpose. Imagine that, right? That's all, from a young kid starting out with drugs and getting to you know, just not knowing about myself, hurting, angry, hate, just so full of frustration, so full of trauma. A lot of things was done to me and I just felt robbed as a kid, right? But getting past that and digging into that and understanding that the reason I was so lost is because I wouldn't find a purpose. And, I know that story and all that pain was a part of my purpose in the end. And I do understand that now, but I wouldn't necessarily prescribe pain to find your purpose. But sometimes that comes hand in hand. I hate to break it to you. So that's why some of these people that have gone through a lot of shit and have a lot of insight is because they're the ones that have been through a lot of crap, right? They've been hurt the worst. And I know that somebody could always have it worse here, so it's not a competition. What I'm saying is I've been through fuck enough, and I know you have too. And if you're on this journey with me, guys, I encourage you to find that sense of purpose, guys, because I'm rooting for you. I don't know you if you're listening to this and you may not know me and I may not know you, or maybe we don't have a deep connection. Either way, just know I'm rooting for you, man. All the bullshits aside and all my ego and all that crap, I just know that I'm a spiritual person. I'm a spiritual being walking this planet, just trying to figure out life just like you and trying to figure out what I did wrong and how to fix it, right? And I just send that love out to you guys, and I hope you guys take this into your week and you guys take it serious. Get serious about your self-care. Understand that you're not gonna, it's not gonna happen overnight. You're gonna have to get used to some of this positive shit. I had to get used to it. It wasn't just like all of a sudden I was Captain Self-Care. That's not how that works. It took a lot of learning from other people, soaking in different habits, different rituals, and eventually I just started healing, right? That's all it's about. It's not about all the how it looks and how fucking cool I am. Like in the beginning, that's how it was. I'm just gonna be completely honest. But today it's like, man, I'm just so happy I made it out of a lot of that shit. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of progress to still come. There's plenty of fixing yet to come, and there's gonna be plenty of mistakes to come. But what we're gonna do on this path is we're gonna just do our best, and we're just gonna keep on grinding, and we're going to keep worrying about this thing called self-care. If you guys are struggling with self-care or trying to understand what it all means, is just check in with yourself, check in with your physicality, your mental peace, your emotional peace, the social connections, your spiritual connections. What about your higher power, your higher purpose? However you got to phrase it, guys. So the good thing, why self-care matters is just like, you know, just being able to reduce your stress, get to a point of balance, and understanding that you got to take care of yourself. Because if you don't, who will? If you don't, who will? Remember that, guys. If you're not willing to take care of yourself, who will? If you have people in your life willing to wait on your hand and feet, then God bless you. But in my life, I do not. Yes, I have a wife that takes care of me, but she's not a stupid girl, so a stupid woman. She's a very smart woman, so she ain't gonna just put into somebody that's not willing to put in for themselves. So I show up for my life, I show up for my recovery, I show up for my family, anywhere I can, and that's reciprocated. She's on the same path I am, and we're vibing on the same wavelength, right? Even when things get stressed, right? We didn't. The thing about this is when we find our people, it's not all about about the highlight reels. I mean, you got to get around people that can take you at your worst and help you through it. It's not all about the golden highlight reels, guys. Just because somebody does something you don't like, all of a sudden you cut them off. That's not how life works. If you make real connections with people, you're gonna work through shit. You're gonna help each other through your guys' bad and your dark times. Obviously, let's try to minimize that and not do too grave injustice to each other. But if it's workable and you can get past it, we got to try to get past it. I remember there was a lifestyle where it was like Barna, and you do one thing to me, it's done, we're fighting, and it's just elimination. Like, I was just so rigid. But today I gotta be a little bit more forgiving with some compassion, right? As long as what they did, or what I think they did, it didn't hurt me into a place of oblivion, then there's a workable way out, right? So please, guys, if you're struggling with self-care, you're struggling with any type of caring, if you don't care at all, start caring. And then where it starts is with self. I promise you that. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. This week, work on self-care. This is Frank, F.D. Recovery. We out. Peace. Thank you for tuning in to F.D. Recovery. A reminder, be kind to yourself on this journey of recovery. Also, call your sponsor. Get connected to local support groups. And for one day at a time, stay clean and sober.